So this gives a short overview of which phones are applicable for which settings. So, having said that, there's a lot of things you probably don't already know about mobile networks. And over the next 45 minutes or 40 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about mobile networks. And it's a warning, this section contains technical information, right? And technical language. So for those of you who are very non-technical, don't kill yourself if you don't understand everything. That's fine. For those of you who are technical, you will get some information here that's very useful for you when you're talking to mobile operators and things like that. And for everyone, I hope you end up with some nuggets of information that you can use to understand when things are actually difficult and when they actually aren't difficult. So this section will provide you with a little bit of background information on mobile networks. So like the health sector, the mobile sector has a whole lot of acronyms. This, I'm not going to go through everything, but this can serve these few ones you should actually know. You can use these. We will, of course, upload the slides. You can use this later when you're reading mobile literature, which you all will do at some point, I guess. Important ones, an MNO is an operator that has its own network, right? So those are the big operators. I'm going to use that later, so just highlighting that. SMSC, everyone knows what an SMS is, a short message service. An SMSC is an SMS center. GPRS is what we usually call mobile data. USSD is the feature where you can press star 123 hash and you can have a dialogue with the network. Is that service. MSISDN, or MISDN, is actually an acronym that nobody agrees what the acronym is actually for. So this is one of the definitions, a mobile station international ISDN number. And ISDN is, of course, the Integrated Services Data Network, digital network. So what it is basically your phone number with your country code. So MISDN, your international phone number. Okay? So when I say MISDN now, you will all, or MSISDN, you will all know what I mean. This is more important. Network generations. The first GSM network came early 90s is what we call 2G. 1G was the more radio-based mobile phones that we had in the 80s. You remember the luggable phones. 2G is GSM. GSM has voice, SMS, and USSD. 2.5G is when they added GPRS. They added mobile data to the 2G standards. So 2.5G and up has data. 3G is something you'll hear a lot of times. 3G is essentially a new radio technology that provided much, much, much higher bandwidth. So if you want to do proper browsing, you will need 3G. 4G and LTE is what's being rolled out now, where everything is data. So basically, even your voice calls are data. So everything is just data. So it's more like proper mobile internet. Okay, but what you need to relate to is basically the difference between 2G, 2.5G, and 3G, which is fast internet. And more importantly, you have some device generations. We've been talking about this. This one is a feature phone, and it's got a fantastic color. So feature phones are still in sale. They are the simple devices that are centered around being an actual phone for voice, SMS, and they have data services, etc. But they are usually not connected to an app store as such. This is a Nokia C206. Yeah, which is what we provided to. How many did we hand out in Malawi?
60 or something.
Yeah, so 60 or something. So we handed in the project in Malawi. They bought these for the health workers.
And we create the built-in Facebook, WhatsApp, very good radio.
Yeah.
And
So
other stuff.
yeah, so it's a Nokia quality phone, and it has a lot of things, but it's still not a smartphone. You can pre-install a J2ME application. It works great, and it costs around $70 to $80. We actually got them in Norway, but they are marketed in most of the world. They're actually made. So this is Nokia. Nokia has failed in a lot of ways, but they are still leading in developing economies because they make fantastic feature phones that are cheap and feature-rich. And then smartphones. The first smartphone was not this. You had smartphones before this. Sony Ericsson had a few, but this was the first real smartphone that actually took off and changed the market. So this is an iPhone. iPhones, kind of expensive. A lot of important people have iPhones, but the people who actually do work usually don't have these. So the Android phones, the Android smartphones are actually a much better. They have a much better coverage. It's open source. It's being sold by several different companies, which is why we make an Android client, because you can get an Android phone now for around $110 to $120, and even less in China. The important thing with smartphones is that they have an operating system where you can add applications easily. So that's the big difference. It's always a question, where did I put my clicker? All right. The main transportation on mobile networks goes over GPRS, which is mobile data, USSD, and SMS, when it's not voice, of course. SMS, we can use that directly, as you've seen with the SMS application, or we can use it as a data channel for the J2ME application or other applications. So they can be used both ways. USSD we can use directly, so we can have a menu, we can interact with the server. GPRS, we use that directly from the application to send data, and it's also what the browser will use to send data to and from internet. So, in this presentation, I will talk a little bit about the basic architecture for 2G and 3G. Very simply, I will tell you how SMS works, again simplified. I will tell you a little bit about how mobile data works. We are not talking about interactive voice response, which is something that a lot of health projects are doing, but we're not covering that now because we don't have that as a ready product. Okay. This is the most technical slide, but the point to show here is that once you connect your phone to a base station, to an antenna on a base station, that base station is connected both to the data network, GPRS network, and to the mobile switching center, which handles SMS and voice. So those already from the base stations, those connections are different, which means that some places you might only have this, which means that you're in a 2G network. Some places you also have data coverage, which means that you're in a 2.5G network. So they are different. The thing in there is just the user registry. Then the SMS center is connected to the mobile switching center, so through the path where you get voice and SMS. And this is what we connect to when we make an SMS application. While everything that's on internet goes through the internet to the GPRS infrastructure. So this is just to show that it's split up into arms. But for all practical purposes, from now on, we're just going to say we have an operator network. So I hope nobody ran out yet. Oh, lost one. Okay. Mobile data. Okay. Mobile data is obviously a way of getting access to the internet through your mobile connection. Right. So we're not here talking Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is separate because if you have a Wi-Fi connection on your phone, you connect straight to the internet, which is great. But it basically relies on that you have some kind of internet coverage, which in most places that we're talking about, you don't have. So you're always connecting through mobile data. So I see that I can't count. 4 main considerations that we need to think about when it comes to mobile data: coverage, capability, cost, and control. I actually didn't try this. It just happened to be 4 Cs. But since we had 4 Cs the other day as well, we're not going to confuse you more. So this is what coverage usually looks like. So in the inner cities, and especially in Asia, you have 4G. So you have the ultra-fast mobile internet, which is rolled out much faster here than anywhere in Europe. But it's also very expensive to roll out. The distance from the antenna that you actually get those speeds is quite low. So it's usually only rolled out in major population centers where there's also a little bit of money. The operators are not doing this for charity. Then, quite a while further out, you also get 3G coverage. And I have to remind you again, 3G is a separate network, so you have to have separate antennas for that, which means that they will roll out 3G, again, in more densely populated areas where there's money, because it's a more expensive technology, again, than the cheaper ones. And then further than that, you're over in the 2G network. So you have 2.5G, where they push the internet out quite a bit further. If you've heard about Edge, that's in this box. So the internet is slower, but you have slightly wider coverage. When you get out into the really rural areas where you almost have no coverage at all, you're in 2G land. So this is where you find quite a lot of the world's population. So you remember this type of slide from earlier, right? With the more advanced in the center and the simpler ones at the edge. This is just the same thing related to coverage. Capabilities. Do users have phones that will work for the applications that we give them? There's no point in creating even if there's coverage, there's no point in creating releasing an Android application if everyone has these phones or even simpler ones, right? So think about that when you're rolling out data services. Cost. Can you zero rate the data traffic? Usually that's quite difficult. So it's quite difficult to go to the operator and say, hey, Mr. Operator, can you make sure that all the traffic that goes to us is free, please? And so that's a problem, but it's absolutely a target. Can the users control the data cost? So the problem if you have a smartphone is that once it's connected to the internet, it starts using traffic like crazy. So it starts downloading new versions of applications, it starts updating itself, and suddenly it's downloaded a gigabyte, which means that there's a cost for the user. Is it possible to refund that cost in some way? Are we even going to refund cost for something that's not related to our project? It's a little bit complicated. Some countries have all-you-can-eat data plans, which makes this a lot simpler. Prepaid or postpaid, again, if you're charged for traffic and you have a postpaid subscription, you might end up with a bill that's uncomfortable at the end of the month. If you're prepaid and you've spent your data, it stops working. So both of them have problems, and you need to position those in different ways. And also, can we have a closed user group so that we can have different charging rules for those particular users? Usually quite difficult to achieve. So cost for mobile data is a very sensitive area. And the last one, control. Can you dictate the user's choice of operator and phone? So even if you have an agreement with one operator in a country, can you dictate that that's the operator that every single health worker in this company, this country shall use? And this is the phone that everyone needs to buy. And can you stop users from using the same equipment and the same connection for other things? And do you want to? Because again, the phone that's in a drawer is not useful at all. So you probably want people to use the phone for other purposes. But do you want to pay for Facebook? It's something that you have to think about. So even if for us mobile data is usually something that's just there, there are some considerations that you should make. I'll give you the microphone. Yes.
It's more just, those are lots of questions. I wonder if you have any examples of solutions or propose any solutions?
Yes, I will get to that. So we have some best practices, and the rest of when I've gone through all the problems, the rest of the session is about how do you solve them. Okay, but yes, don't despair.
I have a solution for your last question. You don't pay for Facebook, you pay for WhatsApp.
So Knut's suggestion is to pay for WhatsApp and not Facebook. That's I thought Facebook paid for WhatsApp. Anyway. Okay, so mobile data, yes, it's difficult, but it's not horrible. SMS. When you send an SMS, everyone has sent an SMS in their life, right? And everyone has received one, I hope. The way it works, it's actually quite simple. You send an SMS to the SMS center, and the SMS center sends it out to the person who's supposed to receive it. So even if it's not online, the SMS center takes care of everything. So it's a very, very, very simple service. It actually was never meant as a communication service. It's quite a funny story. It was meant just for system messages. So for engineers to get reports that things didn't work. And the first SMS application was you have voicemail. So it was only meant for those kinds of notification. My first phone actually couldn't send SMSs, you could only receive them. And then people started using it, and it just exploded. An example of a service that was used for something it was never supposed to be used for. So this is very simple. Complicating it a little, if you have users on two different networks, on two different mobile operators, it works like this. The guy who sends the message sends it to the SMSC. All his messages go there. The SMSC sends it to the other SMSC, and that SMSC sends it to the user who receives it. Again, very, very simple, but you'll see later we have introduced two things here that do kind of the same thing, which can create some problems. So that's technical, that's the call flow number 2. Call flow number 3, last one. SMS value added service. Value added service is anything, any service that communicates to the users over SMS. So what you guys will make if you make an SMS service is a value added service. So that's the operator term for it. It's something you should learn. What happens? Well, you create a short number. A short number is one of those fancy short numbers that you can send an SMS to if you vote in one of the national idol competitions or stuff like that. So that's a short number. That's a number that's assigned to a service, not a person. So you send that text message to the SMSC. The SMSC knows about this short code, short number. So that knows that, this is not a user, this is a service. So I'm just going to send that over the internet to an application on the other side that receives the SMS. This is great, right? It's very simple. And the same thing, the SMS can then send a message back to the SMSC. The SMSC can send that message to the user. And the message will come from that short number. So this is how SMS was expanded from being just phone to phone to being a service to phone system. So, caution. The operators are the walking dead of this world. They are in a managed decline. They have very, very large networks, and they are difficult to talk to. Short numbers are not standardized, which means that if you negotiate a short number with one operator in a country, it will not automatically work on another operator, because all the operators need to recognize that this short number belongs to you. So if you're in a country where there are 4 operators, you need to negotiate with all 4 of them. And operators are not very fond of people connecting straight to their networks unless there's real massive revenue connected to it. So when they allow someone to connect directly to their network, they also open up for a whole lot of problems for themselves. The security in those protocols is kind of early 90s and not quite up to date with our world of spams and stuff like that. So they're very reluctant to allowing people to connect. And cost structures can be difficult. Things like zero rating is something that they are reluctant to do, because if you zero rate SMS, someone will have to pay for it. So they will have to invoice a third party. Adds a bit of complexity. If the short number is not the same on all operators, it's very unpredictable for the users what will happen when they send an SMS, especially if they have 2 SIM cards and use 2 different operators. And how do you reimburse if you have to get reports from a lot of different operators to reimburse for the traffic users use? So this is what you need to solve. And there is a way to solve it, and that's called an aggregator. So this is again the Nigeria case that I talked about earlier. We're working with a company called Vas2Nets. So they have talked to all those 4 operators. They have closed the negotiations with 2 or 3 of them, and they're closing it with the 4th, where they have the same short code on all 4 networks. So if you send in Nigeria, send an SMS to 38120, it's free, and it goes to Vas2Nets, which means that they do the integration. And then they send it on to us, which is actually extremely simple for us. So all we have to do is set up the standard HTTP connector in DHIS2, and it works out of the box. No need for you guys to go to talk to operators. And the target that we have in Nigeria, because in Nigeria this is also part of a bigger cooperative for mHealth, so driven by the mHealth Alliance and GSMA. GSMA is the operator community. That, of course, all the different projects are going to use DHIS2. There is a national DHIS2 instance. So all reporting, if they want reporting into DHIS2, this is already set up, and they can reuse the same connection. They just have to define their command, and the data will end up here. And they can also use the same zero-rated service for other things, such as expert systems and things like that. So this thing, where we have a network of a lot of different projects cooperating with an aggregator, we can actually achieve a very, very, very simple setup. So 38120 is free health services on SMS in Nigeria. So, important messages. Talk to the operators. Absolutely, they're not dangerous. You should get to know them. They are important infrastructure players in every single country. But you should also talk to other projects and see if you can cooperate with them, because there's no need to do this more than once. You should get in touch with GSMA's mHealth project in your region. So they have, as far as I know, project managers in the different regions. We can help you with getting in touch with those guys. Plan ahead. A process like this will not happen overnight. So if there is no aggregator in place already, it might take a couple of months. So don't wait until the very last moment with SMS connections. And please tell us about your experiences. And if you need help, if you need to get in touch with someone, talk to us. We can connect you with the right people.
Just comment.
If you use a microphone, you can comment.
I also think that so far the mHealth project has been merely characterized by pilots. When we are talking scaling, of course this price issue is an issue. And we had a meeting, it was 1.5 years ago in Oslo. It was Hillary Clinton, the Americans came on and invited a lot of, and it was a NORAD conference. And then the health minister of Sierra Leone said it should actually be one part of the telecom regulations, that it should be a free short number that all the operators should split into in order to have health services free. So there are efforts, there are discussions in GSMA and other to see how we can get the tariff down on health numbers, to have free health numbers. So it's not like utopia, it's things that it can be worked on in each country to see whether you can have an alliance with the operators to see whether it can be provided a free health number. In Bangladesh also, we know that a lot of Grameenphone have free health numbers. In Myanmar, we are collaborating with Telenor in order for them to do their CSR, corporate social responsibility budget, to help out with free numbers on health. So this kind of things is actually a thing we could discuss with operators in each country.
Yep.
And also we are working on reimbursement, how to reimburse, how to incentivize, who's reporting on time, get airtime and so forth.
Yep. So, but it's important to remember that the operators are commercial entities, and their motivation for doing things is primarily to make money. So, it is. They are not in this to be nice. A comparison: SMS versus mobile data. Proper SMS integration is operator depending, so you rely on the operator infrastructure, and it can be expensive and it can take time. We're talking about using GSM modems for SMS. Doesn't scale, do not use, except for demos and small pilots. SMS cost control is quite simple. It's not that expensive to send an SMS, so it doesn't go overboard. It's better for low coverage, so if you have one bar in your phone, SMS will still work. You will probably not get data. And for mass distribution of information, such as remember to talk to, on your ANC one visit, remember to talk about these topics to all health workers. I mean, that kind of distribution, SMS is absolutely the best way to do things. GPRS, less operator dependency, data is data. Cost control, as I talked about, can be a bit difficult. Requires setup of GPRS on the phone, it requires data subscription. And if you're using the J2ME application, make sure you can update over GPRS as well, not only use that as a bearer. Okay. Okay, everyone's not sleeping at least, thank you. So all of this is just background that you can use when you go from an idea to a mobile deployment. Next section is about how to deploy. What are the considerations you need to make that are non-technical? So probably more interesting for most of you. Okay. Mobile is all about communication and sharing. The phone is a communication tool, first and foremost. It is not a data reporting tool. So even if it's not the primary goal of a project, improving communication is an important aspect of every single mobile project that you will do. You have the opportunity to increase communication. And if you manage to create community features where people can share, people can talk to each other over mobile, it will help the sustainability of the project. People will be more inclined to not only use it for the first 3 months and then get bored with it, if there's something exciting there. So the mobile gives you this opportunity of being more exciting, of pulling people in. And also, we were talking about closed user groups. If you manage to do this, if you manage to create this feeling of a group where it's, for example, free to call your fellow health workers, it's a very positive attractor to the project. Time distance mobility. I mean, if you can do mobile reporting, you can get away with a whole lot of the paper that goes from the clinics to the local government to the district so you can get away with a lot of the paper if you can get people to report over mobile. It helps with distances. We have stories about paper forms being given to ambulance drivers who put them in the back of their ambulance, and they're not really there to be postmen. So those forms tend to kind of pile up, and suddenly the ambulance driver has 2 years worth of forms in the back of his truck that never gets to the system. Okay. So you overcome that logistics problem of information. You also overcome the problem with information being stale when it gets to the system. Once you report over mobile, the most remote facility can report instantaneously, and you have the data. You can detect outbreaks. You can get that kind of thing much quicker. It's also, when you want to reach many, mobile is obviously a lot more easy to use than computers. Computers are rare. Mobiles are, everyone has a mobile. And the last point here about extending DHIS all the way down into the community, about extending the health information system all the way down to the people who actually see patients, is a great improvement. If you can inform them, if you can give them good nuggets of data that tells them how things work, where they are, it improves their life, and it also improves the data quality you get back. So, but important, use it for the right thing. Are we using it just as a PC substitute? Yeah, I mean, it's short term. Yeah, that's probably a good strategy. You can substitute the paper to PC process with something that's quicker and more attractive. Longer term, it will probably fill different roles. So still, you are going to need the computer for more complex tasks. So the administrators will use computers. The people in the Ministry of Health will use computers, while you can cover the everyday problems, the everyday users, with a mobile. Again, the mobile can do communication, mass communication, simple data entry and feedback, Q&A, and urgent communications much better than the PC can. So our strategy is evolving the mobile terminal as a data entry terminal, so getting the data in. We are talking about tracking on Monday, so we have this presentation was originally made to be held on Monday, so we shuffled around things a bit, which is why we are always saying you will hear more about this on Monday, but you will. We spend a lot of time evolving the mobile as a feedback terminal, so how we can get information out to real users. And also the communication device, the social aspect of it. But we have to keep in mind that this is not the most common phone in the world. Right, smartphones versus feature phones. Right, so let's say you have the possibility of buying a feature phone for $60 and a smartphone for $80. Why wouldn't you go for the smartphone, even if the price is not an issue? Battery. Not everyone can charge their battery every day. People might have to travel to charge their battery. Smartphones use a lot of battery. This Nokia phone can last for a week on one charge. Small screen. Yes, that's a problem for the feature phone, but also on the cheap smartphones, the screen is not that good. That's one of the things that they save on to get the price down. Robustness. If I take these two phones and drop them, I know which one will break first. I know which one of them is most likely to survive a rainstorm. So feature phones are usually much more robust than smartphones. Also, the chances of a smartphone being stolen is really, really, really high compared to a feature phone. If the phone looks just like the phone the thief already has, he's not going to steal it. There's also the thing with touchpad, the touch screen versus the keypad. A lot of users will actually struggle to use the touch screen because they don't get the tactile feedback that they need from the keys. So very technically novice people will actually struggle with smartphones for user interface reasons. So this is something that we sometimes forget. The app platform is obviously a very good reason for doing a smartphone, even if you can do J2ME. We're going to talk more about provisioning of J2ME as a repetition before we do the next assignment, by the way. The smartphone, yes, it has better performance, it has more memory, it is more extensible, you can launch new applications, you can make more interesting stuff, and so it's more future-proof in a way. So you're not only locked to what you have now. So that's the big thing that's with the smartphone. And also the hype. If you give someone a phone that they think is very cool, they feel special. If you give them a phone that's similar to the one they already have, they might think, yeah, it's just a phone. So a cooler phone will be appreciated a lot by the users. And also users in low resource areas, a phone is one of the most valuable things they own. So it's an important status symbol. So we can't forget that. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the application versus the browser. So if you look at it from two different dimensions, one of them robustness, which means that it always works. No matter what you do, it works. The other one, flexibility. So you can use it for anything. You can extend it. You can make it more valuable. You will find that the J2ME application with SMS transport, so you don't need mobile data, you don't need anything. It will always work, but it's very inflexible because if you don't have the opportunity to update it over mobile data, you'll need to go to a training seminar or something to get it updated. So it's very hard to update. Not very flexible. Once you add the ability to use mobile data, you can update it over the air. So you can push an update when you want to update the form. but it becomes less robust because you will need mobile data. And on the other side here, if you have the browser with mobile data, you can do anything. You can change anything anytime. It's always updated. But if you have unstable data, so while you're filling in the form, you lose your data connection, it will not store anything. So again, you have to, when you want to choose what kind of interfaces you will provide, you have to take into consideration what is the environment that you're deploying these solutions into. So, low coverage, J2ME, good coverage, browser. Summing it up. One of the questions that that's important to take into consideration is, do we buy new phones for people or do we use their existing phones? It is much cheaper to reuse the phones, but then you end up with the issues that they might not use the same operator, or to put it another way, they will not use the same operator. If you're going to use mobile data, setting up GPRS is different from phone to phone. So the cost of supporting the setup of mobile data is quite high. J2ME support is very different from phone to phone, which means that brutally, it will not work on at least half of the phones you will encounter, because you have to test on every single phone model. And if there are 2,000, so there are probably 5,000 different phone models out there that supports J2ME. And if we don't have the resources to test on 5,000 phones, we don't have the resources to buy 5,000 phones for that matter. So you need the training and documentation adapted to each single phone. So it is much easier if you're going to deploy J2ME applications, it's much easier to buy a phone. If you do that, you get simpler deployment. It's simpler to reimburse if everyone is on the same operator, so you only have to deal with one operator. But you're locking people into one phone. So when we buy these phones for the project in Malawi, we have one phone that we know works. What happens after 3 years when those phones stop working and we can't get the same model? So it is a limitation when we look forward. So maybe long term, it's not perfect. On the other hand, in long term, maybe the conditions have changed. Maybe the environment is different. Maybe mobile data is more pervasive, so we can start using browsing services. Or probably that's the case.
Let's say in Malawi you can't get the same phone.
It was on mute.
In this scenario in which you can't get the same phone in 3 years in Malawi, and even let's say they don't have the ability to do anything more than to email you, how complicated is it to buy 300 different phones and set it up to work? I mean, it doesn't seem like it should be.
Yeah, so you would need to switch to a new standard model.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you could do that.
Yes, obviously.
Not the end of the world.
Yes, obviously. But then we're in an NGO-funded area, so funding tends to go in periods. So it's that complicates it a little bit.
That is why we kind of ending up in the two variants, which is phone independent. It's SMS or browser in one way or another. Because then you're not dependent on the particular setups on the phones. Because there is a huge variety of phones. And we see that there is a lot of sponsorship. Sophie just showed me that Ghana, Airtel gave 1,500 phones to Ghana Health Services for health data. So that's just a new, and they will pay for all the usage actually. I read the little article now. So there are a lot of efforts in order to support the health system with phones and airtime.
Yeah, and there's a serviceability problem, right? Even if you buy 1,500 phones, then I don't know what the turnover for in these jobs are, but I mean maybe 10% new people every year. So you have to budget for buying those new phones. You have to plan ahead. You have to plan for servicing the phones. You have to have someone to repair them when they break. So there's an infrastructure around buying phones for people that you have to take into consideration.
But we also have a lot of experience of when people are changing jobs, which they do on the lower level of the health system a lot. The phone is handed over, if it's a sponsored phone, or if it's SMS-based, then you just register a new number. So it shall be very, very, very easy to replace people, because people are changing jobs all the time. So all these kind of, so it's not a technical thing, it's much more an organizational thing and work practice thing in order to make this work. So we will maintain a kind of a list, you know, what a guidance on what to remember, checklist in order to make this happen, and because people are changing jobs a lot. And we need to take that into account, into our design.
Yep. Also, the phone, is it private, is it professional, is it both? Probably both, and we have to be okay with that. Is it a good idea to lock into one mobile operator? If we talk to one mobile operator and we work with them, are we sure that they have coverage in all the facilities, all the places where we roll this out? Cost. We've talked a lot about cost, but it's important. What happens if it's lost, stolen, broken? A phone is primarily a communication device. It is more important for a phone that you can call with it in the end. Otherwise, you'll get one of those drawer phones. How easy is it to enter large amount of data on the phone that you're looking at? Is it possible? Is it difficult? Is it easy? And battery life. And I think in rural settings, we cannot emphasize battery life enough. So I'll do it once more. Battery life.
Can I just comment on this close user group? Because this is not all operators in each country know about this phenomenon. And we know, we that are coming from the mobile industry, is that what mobile operators earn money on is termination fees, meaning incoming calls. So having a close user group is actually very, very beneficial for the mobile operator. So in many countries they don't know that, or they haven't put that on their business plan. But that's why we say that we really need to educate also the mobile operators in order to be able to have more creative tariff plans, because it's worthwhile economically also, because then they will actually have a huge customer base, and operators are after customer base, and they will then earn money on all the phones that will come in to the facility, to that individual, if you also use it as a private number. So these kind of things is in development, so it is possible.
Yeah. So these are questions that you're now supposed to be able to understand and discuss, and to which there are no set answers. So why are we doing mobile at all? What's the pros and cons for downloadable browser clients? Is it possible to use SMS? What's the, should we use GPRS? Should we use SMS? Who should we start with? Should we start with the most advanced users, the ones who will benefit the most? Everyone? Do we buy or do we use existing phones? Do we work with one operator or all of them? And how do we reimburse people for the costs? Can we get 0 rating, etc.? So these questions are questions that you will have to consider. Make sense? Did you, are you scared? I hope I didn't scare you. I mean, doing something on mobile will massively increase the reach of the system. It will help you with the reporting rates. It will also help you with pushing more information to the users who can actually apply that information on a day-to-day basis. So to increase the value of a health information system, going mobile, getting it out there, it's a very democratization, increases democracy. So it is important. now, the future. There are things we are working on. We are, of course, always taking requests, requirements into consideration. And we have quite a lot of requests and requirements coming in at the moment. We've increased the team size. So actually, I'm new. I started in this job only 5 weeks ago. We have increased from 2 to 4 programmers during that time. So we are growing, and we're going to push forward. We know we have things to work with, even if we think our stuff is pretty good. But we know that there are things we need to work on. And these are the major areas where we plan to spend our time this year. One of those areas is feedback. So to give the best possible feedback when someone sends in information, no matter which client it is. But also when that data becomes information, as you were talking about yesterday. When you can actually put that data into a context, to push that back to the users and saying, your vaccination rate is very good compared to the rest of the country, or you need to work on this particular thing. So we can use that data when it's being reported to give useful information back to the user. Also for users to be able to pull information, so they can request information that's then pushed to them, is something that we're working on. We're working on making the SMS feature more flexible so that we can have more intelligent ways of reporting things to make it easier for the users. We're working on the social features, the messaging on mobile. So we have several projects on that. We're trying to find out how we can use gamification. Gamification is the phenomenon where people post their where people do their exercise and get points for doing exercise. So they can get rewards for doing exercise, virtual rewards. So when we talk about gamification here, is about having a leaderboard for the best data quality in the country. So if you're if you have excellent data quality, you're high on the leaderboard and you get fame in the community for being a good reporter. Or it can be other motivating factors, such as your boss gets a message says your employee actually reported on time. So you can show that you're good, so you can be recognized. It's a very, very powerful social feature. And we are continuing the focus on reaching every single health worker out there with health information.
Within the gamification concept, we also are working on educational messages that shall be fun. So it's kind of more health data, more education around data capturing. Mm-hmm. We're also thinking about education around refreshment training on DHS and so forth.
Yeah. So I guess we should also do that in the academy, right? Make it more of a game.
One other thing is that this is a community, and we have an own list, DHS mobile list, so that supports every implementation in every country. And we have kind of people 24/7. So we have a team in Vietnam, Manila, and Oslo. Even Uganda and other places that can help out when there are a problem. So it's very, very important to email to that list every time you experience a problem of any sort, then we can help you to solve it. So it's a kind of a back office support team that are helping out on different, and we have things. And we have a Skype call every Tuesday that everyone that have a live implementation, they Skype in. Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock Norwegian time. What is it, 6 o'clock here or no? 4 o'clock Vietnamese time.
Yep.
Tuesday. Okay.
So again, we're trying to work closely with you guys, and we're trying to support you in the best way possible. I'm all out of slides.
Long will now do a demo.
Yeah, unless there are questions, of course.
Any questions? Of course not. Totally clear.
Tablets, yes, yes. Let me spend a little bit of time on that. Yes, we have considered tablets. We think tablets is a really great tool for the kind of second level facilities, small hospitals, etc., where they have resources to have a tablet. This will allow us to give much higher quality information back. So it will allow us to give a better user interface. It will allow us to give better graphical information, and it would allow us to make essentially a better service. So, and then it will probably be Android tablets, since they are cheaper. So we can reuse a lot of the Android code we already have. So yes, we are considering how to approach tablets. We have a couple of people who are thinking about it. So we have a couple of projects down the line which will probably use tablets.
Basically, the approach is that people can use whatever device they have. And then they can choose the variant of solution types, whether it's a browser, the app, the Java, I mean, SMS is a different sort because that's a different solution altogether, but they can use their own phone. So I think depending on resources, meaning what can be purchased or what people have privately also, they can use whatever. And we see, for instance, the example from Malawi when people have these lightweight browser phones. One of them had PCs at home, and they trained all the others, and they learned all the visualization tools and showed it to all the others how they can actually reach out. So people can use whatever device that you have in order to be able to access when you have a user account. That is the idea. We want the people to be able to grow technological-wise, whether it's professional gadgets you get or personal gadget. People are buying smartphones as they down the line get cheaper and cheaper, and then they can be able to use their phone instead of the phone they maybe had from before, or no phone together. So that is the idea, that all the solutions shall always be updated and be able to cater for whatever gadget, I would say gadget, whether it's a tablet or it's a smartphone or a feature phone that is cool, or another phone, or a Huawei phone with a more different user interface. We should cater for that, and then we can use every type of phones. That's our aim.
Any plans for like Apple iOS to be supported by this thing?
iOS?
Not
No.
only the Android.
No, we are not. We don't have.
Because I
plans
think
for
some
iOS at the
users
moment.
are, fan of Apples and some are of Android.
Yes. So
Maybe.
what we see is that you will find a lot of Apple or iOS devices in the higher levels of the administration, but there are very few out in the rural areas. So we don't see that as a priority area. So obviously, if we could choose, we would have everything, but we need to prioritize, and Android devices are much more common in those settings. But obviously, the HTML5 client can be used by iOS users as well, and it's a pretty good user interface in the Safari browser.
And the App Store was made by the Google Summer School, so if someone wants to make an app, then they can.
Yeah. So we have applied to be a mentoring organization in Google Summer of Code 2014. We did that last year. So the Android application was funded by Google Summer of Code. So we are trying to do some projects there as well. And there's, of course, if someone has a great idea that they would like to get in, it is possible for us to try to funnel it through there as well. But that's it's a slightly unpredictable process.
So I have a question about SMS-based template for a form. I'm thinking in terms of user friendliness. Like, for example, it's not possible for a user to type in all the fields and then submit it to the server, because most of our users are just naive users, and they find it a pain to type SMS and just maintain the consistency and field names, ensuring that field names are correct. So is it possible to, from DHIS application, to get a template of the form, and then either the person enrolling, either the manager enrolling a user into the health facility can send that template can send as an SMS to the person, and then user just have to fill in values for it? Or is it possible to get it from server? For example, your number is XY 12345, right? Your SMS number is 1235, and if I write the name of let's say immunization coverage report and info, then it can send me a template of the report, and I just have to fill in values and submit it to the server. So this way, and I also can save that template for future use. So this would be really helpful, because our users can't type that complete form.
This is actually a very good idea. So basically, you're talking a help message or a template message where we send you an example back.
Exactly.
You can edit
Yeah.
and then send back
Yeah.
to DHIS,
Yeah.
which is a very, very good idea that I don't think we've thought about. And that's a good one. Paul, did you catch that? Good.
Should
So-
we expect it in 2.15?
We are going to see to place things into order quite soon. So there will be a better roadmap quite soon. But I will not promise dates today. That would be irresponsible.
Thank you.
There's also, when it comes to a more structured approach, also for users who cannot use data traffic, there is the possibility of USSD, which has a navigation process or a dialogue process with the server. The problem with USSD so far has been that you will have to integrate with every single operator. But there are some places now where there are USSD aggregators, so you can connect to one place. So we are now, again, looking into evolving the USSD client that we have access to, and getting that out, because that's for structured data, it's a much better user experience. So you're more guided through the process. So that's also an approach that we are taking.
And also when it comes to user friendliness, we have seen that using Java application on no platform is very, very easy to learn. That's why we're very, very, very resistant. I mean, we started to do the SMS a little bit late because it sort of was too user unfriendly. Turn out to be that people can learn everything. No problem. It's a matter of training and have more smarter forms, so it's not confusing. So
Yes.
you think a little smart, it's not that difficult to show.
But then again, SMS is primarily for very simple data. And one of the things that we're already taking back from the pilot in Nigeria is that we need to, rather than having to say yes, no on every single item, maybe you would just send the ones that are yes, which is a much simpler way to do it. But then we have to build that. So that's now in our plan to change the SMS application to support that kind of use case. So yeah, we are taking the requirements and we're doing stuff with it. So can I, just a simple show of hands, how many of you think you will have to work with mobile deployments? Show of hands. It's quite a few. Good. And again, we're here all week, so if you want to talk to me, if you wake up tonight with a big question in your head and can't get back to sleep, don't call me until the morning, please, but do speak to me over breakfast. Okay? Thank you, guys.